We all have superpowers. It's a skill that you complete with ease, although others may struggle. This skill, when performed, doesn't drain you of energy, it energizes you and augments life. This skill is your unique calling in life. When you find your superpower and you use your superpower to help others, you become a superhero. This is how we create superheroes. If you want to understand the mission more behind this podcast, go to episode 400. You can find everything about me at robzradio.com. 20 plus years in broadcasting, digital marketing and consulting expert, and I love creating content. That is one of my superpowers. Now I want to help you find yours.
This is Rob Z Radio.
Everybody, welcome to the podcast, Creating Superheroes. It's all about finding your superpowers, and I bring people onto the show because they've found that superpower and they're using it to their advantage for their business, for their life, whatever that may be. I find this to be a very important thing because when you find that thing that's your superpower, then everything you do, you can build around that one thing that you're naturally acclimated towards, that you have energy from doing it, and you help other people with that thing. And if you harness that, it's going to be like the centerpiece for maybe your whole career. Freddie Dorman is here, owner of Dorman Sports Performance in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
So let's talk about this, because the superpower thing to me, when it comes to fitness, I think that's an easy one because that's where the superhumans come from.
That's right.
Speaking of CrossFit and stuff like that,
I've never seen a superhero without a six-pack.
Right. Very true. Yeah. I've seen some super villains without a six-pack.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards that side more.
Maybe Captain Underpants.
Well, there you go.
That's
a very good one.
But, all right, that's because my son loves him. He's obsessed with him.
I feel like I look more like him than anybody else, so that's perfect.
So you've been doing this now for how long? How long have you been in the fitness world for?
Fitness world, about 7.5 years. My own business, a little over 5.
Okay. And when you talk about the superpower, what is that for you? What is it? How did you define it? How are you using it?
I think, so whenever you first asked me to do this, I actually put some decent amount of thought in that, because I think what I originally was going to say, I think is a little deeper than what it actually would be on the surface. So my original thought was coaching.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot of elements that go into coaching, and I think the most important one is developing relationships. So I think that's probably, obviously I turn coaching into my business. It's my biggest passion, but I think having the ability to connect with people and be able to listen and develop that relationship is probably what I'm best at.
And that makes you a great coach.
Bingo.
Being able to have those skills.
Yeah, because I know a lot of guys that know everything, but they have, and girls too, that know everything there is to know about sports and fitness, but they're unable to connect with the athlete. So there's a disconnect there. So chances are that athlete might not get what they're looking for. That's
a really great point, man, because I've met a lot of people who are in incredible shape. They might be a personal trainer.
Sure.
But they just don't have those people skills that are necessary to help take that knowledge they have and pass it on to somebody else.
Because it's even as a business owner hiring, I can teach anybody the science and the educational part of it and like the technique, but if they can't relate and they can't have like honest conversations with people and be able to connect, it's pointless.
Yeah,
because at the forefront, that's what people are there for.
And those people who are trying to get their bodies or whatever that is to the next level, they need somebody who's going to be blunt with them at some point.
Yeah,
but also know that they care. Right?
That's right.
It's
like
you're being blunt because you care and you want this help. You want to help this person move forward. Is that something that you? How did you figure that out? Where did the coaching came in, right? But where did that skill of being able to communicate come in? Or is that something you just kind of grew up with?
I think it's not. That's not a loaded question as far as like. I don't think there was like a pinpoint situation where I'm like, hey, this is what I'm good at. Having grown up in a small business, my parents own a jewelry store in town, and seeing how my family and my dad and my grandparents treated people, I think that it just came naturally. And then having played professional hockey for so long, you really learn how to learn and read people and how to handle certain situations. There's so many different personalities coming up through the ranks in hockey, and this is relative to any sport and any business, that if you're not able to read that, your situation might change. So having that experience, I think, definitely progressed me to where I am now.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're talking about your parents owning a jewelry store, being on the sales floor all day long. You have to develop those sales skills. And if you develop the right kind of sales skills, not where you're just trying to sell people something, but you're trying to create a real connection with people.
That's right.
That's why your family's been in business around our area for such a long time.
They opened in 1974.
That's crazy.
My grandmother had a dream one night that there was where the jewelry store is at now. This is a short story, but she had a dream one night that they bought the land, built a building, and it turned into a jewelry store. A week later, they got the deed to the land, started building a building, and the jewelry store has been there ever since.
Wow,
it's so crazy.
That's awesome.
That's how Dorman's got started. Dorman's jewelry got started.
That's not the same way the sports performance got started. But
no, much different. Much different.
There
story.
wasn't a dream that sparked it.
Not. My dream changed, but I'm very happy where I'm at now.
Cool. Let's talk about communication, because I think that the culture that we live in right now, that's a big piece of the conversation when it comes to millennials, when it comes to Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to connect with people because they're on their phones all the time. That's the thing you hear. I know a lot of millennials and a lot of Gen Zs that aren't like that. They are very interactive, and they do like to talk to people. So what do you see? And I guess, what advice could you give to somebody with that being one of the superpowers that you have? Somebody who struggles with that sort of thing, because I struggle with that. I struggled with eye contact for a long time, like in college, younger than that, and then sometime around, I don't know, 23, 24, I just got over it. It was like I had to push myself past it. If somebody's struggling being able to communicate correctly and effectively, and they know they have something inside of them, but they can't get it out because they can't talk to people. What would you say to somebody?
You got to find what they're comfortable with. So I think Zach, who's our PT, and I have a saying: you got to win every day. So no matter what they're doing, especially from a gym setting, they got to come in and find something that they're going to succeed at. And whenever that person becomes comfortable in that situation, I could give you 100 stories of athletes that come in for 3 weeks, don't say a word.
Oh yeah.
Do not say a word. And then I start ribbing at them a little bit, digging at them, just kind of trying to test the waters of what I can get out of them.
Yeah.
And then there's a switch that goes, and they just open up. They're the funniest people in the world. I think a lot of times it's confidence. Mm-hmm. They're coming into a situation that they might not have any experience in, or they're not comfortable in. And a gym can be a scary situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
Very
coming in, it can be. Yeah, absolutely. And especially what we do. Like we don't have a lot of machines. We do a lot of free weight stuff. So a lot of that stuff is people don't know what all that is. So coming into the gym, they're like, oh man. So a lot of times you'll see people the first couple weeks kind of protect themselves a little bit. And then once they get that comfort level, gates, I mean, it's flooded. I mean, you're off and running.
Turn them off.
No, and it's great, because I love seeing that, because there's kids that come in and you're like, oh, this kid isn't going to say a word, and then 5 years later they're still coming and they won't shut up. Mm-hmm. It's one of those situations that it's like, I love seeing that transition. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of coaching, is seeing that growth.
I think that it's interesting when you talk about fitness, when you talk about gyms, and you talk about people who are in really good shape, really muscular, really take their fitness to another level. They're very serious about it. It usually comes, and not all of the time, but it can come from a place of lack of confidence,
Bingo.
lack of self-esteem.
That's right.
So even though you've become extremely in shape and extremely fit in a certain area, that doesn't mean that your personality, that your personal ability to communicate with people has changed. You've never actually worked on that thing.
No.
You just worked on your body the whole time.
So I think a lot of that comes down to is that looking in a mirror is tangible. So you can see a physical change.
Yeah.
Sometimes that mental change, as far as communication, you can't unless you experience it. Like, I can go in and have a goal, make my arms bigger. I can go in and do biceps and work on that. And then a week or two later, I look at like, oh, wow, look at that. My arms are actually getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's the physical versus the emotional, mental is so different, but it's all connected. Because sooner or later, that body is going to give you some more confidence. And that more confidence may lead to you having better communication skills, or vice versa.
Yeah, and having that body can also lead to arrogance too, right? Where you think you're communicating the way you want to, but you're not actually being who you really are.
And that's why having a good coach is important, because they can keep you in check.
So before we got rolling here, you started talking about coaching, and you talked about the fact that you broke your back twice, and that got you into coaching.
Yeah, that's right.
What's that story?
So I'll give you the short version. So I played professional hockey for 4 years, and in my last year, I had signed with a team in Illinois. The very next day,
when you say professional hockey, that's not NHL level?
I was not. No.
What's the level below that?
It was equivalent to like the Altoona Curve.
Oh,
so
okay. Right.
double A team for the Red Wings, double A team for the Blue Jackets, bounced around single A, high level, low level.
Cool.
Lived all over the country. It was one of the best experiences of my life. So I actually got a real late start in hockey. I didn't start skating until I was 14, and then I signed my first pro deal when I was 20.
Wow!
So I had a real quick trajectory. I hit the wave right at the perfect. It couldn't have been better timing for me.
And you were a natural at it, like it just kind of came to you.
Yeah, I was always a big hockey fan, roller hockey, street hockey, but never played ice hockey until Galactic Ice came around. So when that happened, within 2 years, I was getting schools to look at me. So it was just like, oh wow, this is happening really fast, because baseball is my first sport and my best sport, but hockey was a love. So fast forward to my 4th year, I was having a good career. I knew I wasn't going to get to the NHL, so I was already kind of planning my exit out of hockey.
How did you know that you weren't going to make it to the NHL?
Honestly, I just wasn't good enough.
So you just knew that yourself.
Yeah, like I played with guys that played in the NHL, and I played with a guy named Scott Darling who won a Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Chicago Blackhawks, and that was the first time in my career I looked down at the other end of the ice and said, I'm not going to see the ice this year. Like he was, there's just guys that you look at, they're just in different realms than you are. And I was a really good hockey player. I would have been a really good backup at that level, and maybe like the AHL level, but I just knew that probably wasn't going to happen for me. But I wouldn't change anything the way it happened, because I wouldn't be here today if what had happened. So I had signed with the team the day prior. The very next morning, one of my good friends, Jed, and I went to a gym, and this is before I really knew what I know about now. So I probably wouldn't be on a leg press knowing what I know now. I was doing a set of 5. I was on my 4th rep. I was going pretty heavy, and I brought my legs down about a 1/4 inch deeper than I normally do. When I went to push, I heard a pop, and then my legs went numb, and the sled, which had about 800 pounds on it, came down on me and basically folded me in half.
Yeah.
So Jed ripped all the plates off. I heard a loud pop. Next thing I know, I'm in the hospital, getting shots, getting x-rayed, CT scans. So I fractured my L5, herniated 2 discs.
Man.
So during the rehab process of that is where I really found a love of the training. So that contract obviously didn't happen because I was done. So tried to rehab out of it. Wasn't coming back as quickly as I thought, and I was having a lot of pain. As a goalie, certain positions you go into put a lot of strain on your lower back and your hips.
Sure, you're crouched down a lot.
That's right.
Like
so
a catcher,
and then,
almost.
Yeah, you're hitting your knees. You're hitting your knees 1,000 times a game. You're hopping up and down, a lot of lateral stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't have it anymore, mentally and physically. I didn't think I could play at the level I was accustomed to. So during that, I decided to get into training and enrolled in school, did online, and then Zach, who's our PT, was finishing his PT degree. And he's like, hey, I need somewhere to send athletes. So I started working for a couple gyms in town, and then fast forward 5.5 years, and we're at DSP and Iron Like CrossFit, and we're in a 16,000 square foot facility. So it's crazy how that one moment, looking back on it, was the catalyst for what I'm doing now.
In that moment when that all happened, because this is right, these things happen to people all the time, these turning points, and
right.
you in that moment, I'm sure you didn't see that as a turning point. You were just like, "Oh crap! Like, I got a huge setback."
And honestly, if that didn't happen, knowing my personality, I probably would still be grinding it out in the minors, just because I loved it so much. Like, and the jewelry store wasn't something I was super passionate about. I'm still there. I still help out my family. It's a family business, so I'll always help out there. But that wasn't what I was passionate about. But during the rehab process, I really fell in love, because I kept seeing these high school athletes struggling after ACL injuries, and I'm just like, how can I help these kids? And Zach also, the whole way we actually started the business, I was training at a local gym. I was like, I think I'm at that point, and we were having beers at the island in my kitchen. He was like, why don't you just open a gym? And then that was on a Friday. Sunday, I had a lease to our first location. So I just jumped right into it.
Yeah, just took the chance.
That's right.
Because you knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You knew that was what you wanted.
That was what the tip of the spear was for me. Like, that's what I wanted to do.
You know, I like talking about superpowers on this podcast. I think that a lot of people, when you're trying to identify this thing, because this is what I went through for a little while too, you have a lot of things you might be good at, right? You were good at baseball. You were good at hockey. You were good at working at the jewelry store, right? It's things that you might think, oh, that's my thing. But when you tap into that thing that you can't stop thinking about, and hockey may have been that for you, right? But then you also knew, I'm good, but I'm not NHL good. Yeah. So I can't take it to that level. Or maybe you could have pushed yourself to try, but who knows what would have happened. But I think that the point is, you may have these things that you might be really talented in, you might be really good at, but is that thing going to take you to the level that you want to get to? You know, or are you going to make the impact, I guess? Because it's not really about getting to a certain level. It's about creating impact in people's lives.
See, you just hit the nail on the head for me. Like, my main focus is I want to better everybody's lives that I come in contact with. Like, genuinely, like, if you ask anybody at that gym, I know everybody's name when they first walk in the door. I say goodbye to everybody by their name when they leave. I genuinely want to make a difference. And it doesn't matter if you're an elite athlete or you're just a beginner. Like, your hour with me, you're going to get all of me, and I genuinely want to see people succeed. And it does, and even competition, like other gyms, I want to see them do well, because that means there's other people in their gym that are going to succeed too. Like there's other people that aren't at our gym that are exercising. I want those people to progress to what their goals are, regardless if they're with me or not. And I'm genuinely honest about that. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I just want people to be the best that they can be.
Where does that come from? That's something you were just born with, that feeling of like wanting to be able to help. Because I feel the same way when it comes to looking at high school kids or junior high kids, even college kids. Because I'm in a couple of mentorship programs, and I really just, I'm curious to see what you say, because for me it's like, I want to be able to find me at like 13 years old. So I didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't have any self-esteem. I was just, I really wish somebody would have came along and like grabbed me by the shirt and been like, wake up, dude. Yeah. And I want to be able to be that for somebody else as they're coming up. Maybe kind of like shake the cobwebs loose. Like they've never met somebody who actually comes along and motivates them.
I see that every day. Kids that come in, I'm like, if you give me like a solid 6 weeks, I can turn you into, instead of a Division II football player, Division I football player. Like, and that might not be their goal, and that's fine. But I see these kids and adults even that I'm like, if you just take this little extra step, or if you change your trajectory this way, X might turn into Y, Y might turn into Z for you. But for me, I think if you ask my parents, before hockey became my first passion, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I think this is my way of doing that.
Yeah, so you are teaching. That's what you're doing.
Bingo. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's always been kind of ingrained in me. And I think my parents did a wonderful job of instilling that. Like, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen my dad anonymously donate money, have people over. Like, he would give his shirt off his back for anybody. Yeah. And I think that was just, seeing that, I think that just got ingrained into me.
Yeah, it's part of the DNA.
It is. I really think it is. And my grandparents, my uncle, like, they're all like that.
That's really cool, man. I think that's a rare thing to find. You have a lot of people who are coaches, but I don't know what percentage of those, what their purpose is, what they're doing it for. Are they doing it for themselves? Are they doing it for the money? Or are they actually just there because they want to see somebody else succeed? Right. And they know that they have this teaching ability, that they have whatever that is inside of them that can make that person go to the next level.
Yeah, my driving force when we first opened, it's never been about money. It's always been about the people and the results.
If you take it in that direction, then you're going to be successful, because people connect with that.
Yeah, because like, I get to see, I just had one of my athletes just committed to Penn State. He's a linebacker. I just posted a picture of him yesterday. Seeing him working out in that weight room and knowing how hard he trained to get there, it's so rewarding to me that no amount of money will make me feel that way. And I have a weightlifter, Kendall, who just competed on a national stage for the first time in Anaheim and killed it. Like, seeing her jumping off that platform in tears because she's happy is why I do it. Like, it's stuff like that. Or we have a member who just got off diabetes medication, blood pressure medication. Like, that's the tangible. That's my reward. That's my payment right there. Yeah, that's all huge. I need.
That especially,
I get choked up talking about it. Like, I genuinely love those people.
When you mentioned people going on and like competing in high level at sports, that's one thing that I think it's a rare amount of people that actually get to that spot. But when you're impacting somebody, getting them off diabetes medicine, that's like the core part of America. Yeah, that's tons of people that are stuck in that spot.
That's the majority.
Yeah,
the high level athletes are the minority.
Yeah. So helping them get to the next level, of course, that's huge, and that's huge for that person. But somebody who is on diabetes, who doesn't have maybe anybody in their life who ever gave them any health advice, gave them any fitness advice, never really coached them on any of this stuff. Right. They're the ones who really need help just to live a happier life.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're only here for so long. You got to make the most of it. So the amount of our obesity rate in Altoona right now is pushing about 65%, I believe.
Is that right?
It's very high. I might be off a little bit on that number the last time I checked, but the amount of people that do need help in our region it's a lot. Because go down the boulevard. How many restaurants are there? Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah, and that's any small town in America, right? I mean,
super common.
And if you're listening from this anywhere other than Central Pennsylvania, I'm sure you have that somewhere where you live as well. And it's very common. And I find it strange because the fitness industry creates, because I follow a lot of fitness accounts, and when you see that world, you think like, man, everybody's working out. Right. But everybody's not working out. So what is your perspective there? Because I think that's a very strange thing that Instagram accounts for fitness are huge. You see all of these people in CrossFit and everything seems to point that we're healthier, we're more fit than we used to be, like when Schwarzenegger introduced, bodybuilding back in the 70s to like America.
Yeah.
It was
one
a very
of my
small.
favorite I love that movie.
Oh yeah, Pumping Iron is one of the greatest movies ever, or documentaries, whatever you want to call it. But back then, people weren't really talking about it. It was and that's not necessarily the best way to get in shape is to lift tons of heavy weights.
No,
it's more just walking could be the number one thing.
And that's probably the best way to get started is walking. It's simple. So it doesn't matter what you do. The fact that you're starting is the catalyst for it, because eventually, if you might start walking, that might turn in, hey, I might do couch to 5K. I'm going to train for a 5K. Oh, hey, so-and-so lifts weights on the weekends. I'm going to go try that. Like that can all build upon just that simple step of walking.
Yeah.
And just walking the dog every day can make a huge difference. Huge difference.
Well, you talked about Andy Frisella and the 75 hard.
Where I'm working on trying to get that set up in the gym right now. So,
and one of the pieces of that, right, is just getting outside and doing something for 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
You don't have to necessarily be working out. It's walking the dog or doing something.
And it doesn't matter time of year, time of day, rain or shine. It's 30 minutes outside.
And that's, I imagine, for a lot of people, that seems even ridiculous to think to even go do that. To even put those 30 minutes in is one of the hardest things they would possibly do.
Yeah.
I forget who was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, but it dawned on me, like, our bodies obviously are not made to sit. The way we're designed, it makes no reason why we'd be sitting all day long. We're meant to walk. We're meant to be mobile.
Yeah.
And not necessarily sprinting, running, lifting. We're just meant to be walking a lot. Like 4 miles a day is what we should be getting, which is around 10,000 steps.
10,000 steps, yeah. So that's where the step counters and like the Fitbits and everything really kind of got into play. But the issue is, our sitting starts in school, starts in kindergarten.
Starts right away, yeah.
Starts right away. That's why I'm a big proponent of getting kids into gymnastics.
Yeah.
Gymnastics, dance, something where you're moving more than you're sitting. And then I've even talked to schools about trying to implement standing desks, more fitness options for kids instead of just like so Pennsylvania, you have to have at least a 30-minute PE class only 3 times a week. That's a requirement.
Wow.
It's only 90 minutes of exercise.
Wow.
The U.S. recommended amount of exercise is 120 minutes. So that's
nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Compared to and people have misconceptions about what fitness actually is.
Right.
Because walking can be considered
that is fitness. Yeah. If your heart rate rises and you're working on your cardiovascular, that is a form of fitness.
Yeah.
And then you have guys that are Olympic weightlifters, bodybuilders, those are all different modalities, but it's all fitness.
So with Dorman Sports Performance, with what you're doing right now, because obviously you found like your groove. I can tell whenever you talk about this when I see your facility, what you have laid out. It's just you can tell like this is what you're into.
Yeah,
you're definitely in your zone.
Yeah, my wife gets annoyed when I'm watching YouTube videos about weightlifting at like 10 p.m. at night in bed.
Right.
Yeah, so you could say I'm a little obsessed with it.
Yeah. Have you read the entire bodybuilding encyclopedia by Arnold, like from front to back?
I've not. I'm a pictures guy.
Okay.
So I skip through some of the words. But
right. Yeah.
I've never read that cover to cover. I should.
But what's your goal? I guess because you're obviously on a track right now. You've got a great group of people that you're working with at Dorman's. Mm-hmm. What's your like end game goal, or where do you want to take this? Do you have a vision for it?
Yeah, we do short-term, long-term goals. Right now we're trying to give our big push right now. Obviously we have the sports, our barbell club, and our CrossFit. So we're just trying to right now really focus on giving those three the best experience they can. So my big thing is we have the first step in this is finding quality coaching. We have that. We have the best coaches in the area, some of the most educated. So that's kind of off the list. So right now our coaching from the sports performance, barbell, and CrossFit is phenomenal, and our personal trainers. So we're doing a great job there. Long term, I want to get more people in so we can help them. That is the ultimate goal, is just trying to get that driving force, educate people on what we do, because CrossFit's new in our area.
Yeah.
Even though it's been around since 2007, it's still relatively new. It's a very small market. So trying to educate people on what we do and what that is and how that can help them is like our main focus right now in the forefront. Really happy with our space. I'd obviously like to add showers and things like that in the future, but right now I think our main focus is trying to educate people on what we're doing and how it can help. And
when you talk about CrossFit, you mentioned something to me the other day that I found interesting, because you talked about how you watch the CrossFit Games, you see Rich Froning and these freaks of nature who are just incredible looking human beings. I mean, the
Yes.
peak of athletes.
Yes.
But that's not really what CrossFit is all about.
Nope.
Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's really interesting, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I did CrossFit on my own for a while. I never actually took like CrossFit classes,
Which is hard. Doing it on your own is hard.
Yeah, I didn't last very long.
Kudos to you. But
I was burnt out, man.
yeah, it's hard. So
it was not having somebody else there to like go back and forth with.
A class setting makes a huge difference. It's
Yeah.
very tribal. So
Yeah.
it's so the froning thing. So even the owner and the CEO of CrossFit, Greg Glassman, who's the founder, said what you see on TV is not CrossFit. What you see are the guys and girls that are working out 8 to 10 hours a day, and this is their full-time job. They are competing in the sport of CrossFit. So I look at CrossFit in two ways. There's the sport, and then there's the health modality that's helping you get off diabetes, medication, lose weight, become leaner. They like to say look good naked. That's like CrossFit's big thing.
Yeah.
That to me is 99.9% of CrossFit is not what you see on TV. It's the moms, it's the dads, it's the grandparents, it's the teachers, it's the firefighters, EMS. It's those people that are grinding every day in that gym for an hour with their friends and with their coaches and working towards a simple goal. That goal may be, I want to run a 5K. I might want to be able to sit up out of my chair without pain. I want to deadlift 500 pounds. Like, there's so many different things that people are shooting for in that class. But the beautiful thing is that they're all in the class together.
So why is CrossFit the platform designed towards that? And that's, I guess, the question I get stuck on is, it seems from the perspective of looking at CrossFit as a whole and looking at the CrossFit Games, it's about being the guy who can do the most snatches, or the girl can do the most clean and jerks or whatever. What part of that, when you guys teach it at Dorman Sports Performance, when you have somebody come in
Sure.
and their goal is to get off of dialysis or whatever,
Yeah.
what's the strategy, or what's your plan for them to do that? Are they on the same plan as somebody else who's trying to lift, or like?
So the beautiful thing about CrossFit is that it's infinitely scalable. So I can take somebody who's a sedentary adult, who's overweight, obese, considered morbidly obese, and put him in the same class as somebody who's competing in the games. And the beautiful thing with CrossFit is that there's certain ways of scaling movements that we call them RX and scaled. All right, so the RX is we're prescribing this weight. You can either do more than this or do the prescribed, and then scaled is if you're doing a different variation of it, that is considered scaled. Even if you're moving, I don't like those two terms, because I don't like putting people into categories, because if you're improving your fitness, your health and fitness, you're on the same level playing field in my eyes. You might be at a different part of that playing field, but you're still going towards the same goal.
Yeah.
All right, it's just bettering your lives. So I think a big thing is I can take that person and have them come in and do a class and have them succeed and win every day that they're there. Same with somebody who's been doing it for 10 years. It's just on how you program it for that individual. So the nice thing with CrossFit is you can take anybody and match the movements with where they're at with their physical skill at that point. And the goal is to always progress that movement. Rarely will you ever find somebody that starts that's good at everything.
Yeah.
It's almost near impossible. And those guys that probably are good at everything are at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
And there's only like 40 of them in the entire world.
Right.
So taking that individual and putting them in the right situation is key, because it's relative in anything. Personal training, sports performance. If you don't set them up for success, that's on you. So having the ability to put them in that right path is what you're after, and CrossFit can do that, because there's so many different things that you can do in CrossFit that'll get them there. Because there's gymnastics, body weight, bodybuilding, Olympic weightlifting. Like, it's every modality that you could think of, and body weight kind of matched together in this formula and this methodology that gets people healthier. And there's a lot of studies that prove that it does.
I like that a lot, man. That's really good. That's great, solid advice, and makes you look at it in a different perspective.
Yeah, you have to.
I'd like to see that and hear more about that, because I don't feel like, not that I'm following CrossFit that heavily, but I don't ever hear that being talked about.
No, because it's too glamorized, in my opinion, as far as because of the TV, like what you see on ESPN, like that's not it. It's those people are amazing to look at. They're phenomenal athletes, and those are the people.
But they make you feel like a loser whenever I
when
I watch them. I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
We have a handful of athletes at our gym now that are really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And they're not sniffing the CrossFit Games, but regionally they're unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable athletes. It's just, if you have a full-time job, you're not going to the games.
Right.
100% not happening. Like, those guys train 8 to 10 hours. They're fully paid professional athletes.
Yeah.
And that's such a small number. CrossFit's doing a great job right now. They just deleted all the social media. Like they're completely rebranding CrossFit.
Really?
So they're taking the emphasis out of the games and putting the emphasis on the affiliate where most of the good work's happening.
Man, good for them.
It's a huge move for them.
Yeah,
a lot of it
big risk.
It's a huge risk, but they also spent a lot of money on the games.
Sure.
So, but now they're putting more of the emphasis on the affiliates and the members of those affiliates because that is 99% of the people that are paying them.
Are they recognizing that they're getting a bad rap, or are they recognizing that it's getting the wrong impression? That CrossFit's giving the wrong impression to certain people, and they're trying to rebrand
I think that's at the heart of it. I think that's at the foundation of it. But I think they realize the potential is in the affiliates. It's not in the games. The affiliates are what makes CrossFit so strong, and there's so many of them, and there's so many dedicated people to helping. Because Greg Glassman's trajectory in life is to help offset disease.
Oh, really? That's the creator.
That was the creator. That was his motive, was to get people healthy and figure out the best way of doing it, and CrossFit was his solution.
And that's why what people like you, who are running a gym in a town,
right,
bringing people in who might be on diabetes medicine, and you're helping them get off of that.
That's the goal.
And live a healthier life. That was his goal.
That's what he started.
So he knows that's where the core needs to be.
Yeah, the first affiliate was in 2007. I think there's 15,000 of them now worldwide, and it's all over the world.
That is so cool, man. It's so cool that he's doing that that was his mission from the start.
Yep.
And it obviously got kind of maybe derailed at some point, not saying in a bad way, because it just got so much notoriety everywhere.
Yeah, the trajectory is really fast. Yeah, there's been some negative things said about it.
Oh yeah,
but those are a lot of people that never been in the situation.
Well, I know people also who have injured themselves because they were going too hard, trying to do double unders and hurting their hips or whatever that might be, because they're just maniacs and pushing themselves too much.
So we see that a lot. So not necessarily people getting injured, but people not knowing when to pump the brakes. So a lot of the coaches' jobs, and I think our coaches do a lot of good stuff here, is that the coaches got to know when to progress people and whenever to pull on the reins.
Yeah.
So it's like so and so, hey, let's back off here a little bit because you're going above our intended stimulus. So what we're trying to accomplish today, you're going way above that, which you don't need to, because we're going to set you up for tomorrow, which might be actually a little harder than today. If you go too hard today, tomorrow is going to be rough for you.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it is, and I don't want to say inexperience, but it is because people don't know what they don't know yet. Like they don't realize, hey, if I go 6 days a week really hard, I'm redlining every day, I'm going to crash and burn after 2 or 3 weeks. So you got to be able to know when to take a break. Like that's super important. Like I'm a big fan of going 3 days, off 1 or 2 days, and then 2 days. So that's what we usually, when people first start, we say start with 3 days. See how you feel. If you can add more, add more. If you got to scale back, but still make a commitment to getting here at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. Switching gears real quick, man, because when we had talked a couple of days ago, I mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza and Andy Frisella, and you know who all those people are. So you obviously not just as far as fitness and coaching, but leadership too, and the mental state, the mind game.
It's huge.
That's the most important part. If you get that part right, if you can get what's going on inside of your head to a good place, everything else can fall into place.
That's right.
What prompted you to follow those sorts of people, the leadership kind of people, the people who, they might not be, I guess Andy Frisella is into fitness, Joe Dispenza, I don't think not as much, but where does that leadership come from and that interest in those kinds of people? Because usually in the fitness industry, they're separated.
Right.
The leadership's kind of separated from the fitness.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't know why it would be, but I mean, you're going to follow somebody who's really in shape, but you might not follow somebody who's into meditation who talks about the mind games.
So the way I look at it is this. So if you go on Instagram and you see somebody that's posting a lot about fitness, they should be a leader in fitness, right? They should be like the go-to person. And unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. But as far as the leadership side of it, if you're a CrossFit coach, you're a leader of a class. If you're owning a business, you're a leader of that business. They have to go hand in hand. Some of my favorite things that I've taken, that I've implemented into my business and into the gym have nothing to do with fitness.
Like what?
Just certain business certain business practices on how to treating people, how to lead. I read a book called Profit First Mike McAllowitz, which was awesome. There's a lot of principles in there. Now that's mostly financial side, but there's a lot of principles inside of there that you can relate to an actual business side. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink was one of my favorite books. He took his experiences in the military and breaks them down in how you can operate a business, and that's any business. But all those principles are one and the same. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So a leader is a leader, regardless if you're the best podcaster, the best trainer, the best Instagram model, whatever your leadership is, you got to be able to present it correctly. So I think there's a lot of carryover between the two.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's such a huge part that my partner Kyle and I, when we talk about business owners, and one of the things that I always notice is that people want social media. They want to know more about social media. They want to learn more about social media, and they're not afraid to admit that. It's not like there's no pushback when you say, well, we could teach you more about Instagram or about Facebook advertising.
We just had that conversation the other day.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to leadership, and you try to talk to somebody who's running a business about leadership, that's a whole different story, because they normally will feel like they already are a great leader, or they just don't want to hear it because it's going to challenge them. And it's going to put who they are into question. Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but the moment you stop learning, you're dead.
Yeah.
So
there's no standing still,
you
right?
Can't.
If you don't keep growing, impossible. You're dying. You're falling backwards.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why one of the reasons I like that 75 Hard, because it forces you to read every day, and like it doesn't have to be an entrepreneurial book, but just self improvement. I love that, because that's just going to the amount of growth that you're going to get, A, physically from that challenge, and B, mentally from that challenge, is going to be huge. And it's the same thing. Like if you're closed minded to learning anything, you're not in it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
like
good luck.
Exactly.
With life in general.
Exactly.
Because if you're putting your feet down, digging your feet into the ground whenever somebody's trying to help you move forward, and somebody could come along and not have your best interests at heart. But when somebody's actually really trying to help you and maybe give you solid advice, and you're still railing against that advice, you're setting yourself up for failure somewhere down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're treating that person like that, then in your own brain, you're treating your own self like that. Because internally, it's somewhere along the line, you are denying yourself truth. You're denying yourself growth.
Right.
And you're stuck in a certain spot.
Yeah, you're going to be stuck in a very small box for a very long time.
Yeah. And if you can't get yourself out of that, you might as well forget about it.
Yeah, you just keep digging yourself a deeper hole. You're not actually expanding the box. You're just getting deeper into the box.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's,
very true.
You have to expand your potential. Like I don't know everything there is to know about fitness, and every day I'm trying to get closer to knowing everything I can about it. Yeah. It's the same with business. It's the same with like personal growth. Like it's all related. It's all relative.
Well, you're bringing a team in too, right? Yeah. You got a team in there to help you.
That's right.
Do what you do on the fitness side. You have a team that helps you with the business side.
That's right. And they all have the same vision.
Yeah.
That's what you got to surround yourself with people that have the exact same vision as you do.
And this is a perfect way to bring this around full circle, because that's all about the superpowers. You've a superpower. You're bringing in individuals who have other things that they are very capable in.
Compliments, yeah.
And when you bring those together, I always like to say it's like creating the Avengers. Like you're bringing people. That's when you get the superheroes, and you guys all come together, and that's why you can create something that actually works.
Yeah.
Now, if you have two alpha males in the same spot trying to compete against each other, they're just going to ruin everything, because they're always going to try to defeat each other and not worry about the whole bigger picture.
That's right. So a lot of times now somebody might come in and have you just have to. So you have to find what people are best at, what their superpower is, and put them in a position from an owner's with like employees and coaches, put them in a position that they're going to succeed. So they may think that they're going to be successful here, but if you know for a fact that they're going to be better off here, getting them to that point and realizing it is the goal. Yeah. Because if they can realize that potential, not only are they going to succeed, and they might potentially make more money and help more people, it's going to help your business.
And they're then going to be self-motivated.
Bingo.
No longer do you have to sit there and tell them everything they have to do. They're going to want to do it themselves because they love doing it, and they see the growth happening. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. I guess to wrap up, how do you find those people? One of the biggest things I always hear talked about as well. Number one, people want to know more about social media. Number two, hiring people. How do you find the right people, and how do you know they're the right people for the positions, and how do they click and fit in with what you're doing?
You're going to make mistakes. You might make the wrong hire. but recognizing that and making a better hire is key. So sometimes, a lot of times, fortunately, I've never really been in a situation where we either had to let somebody go or fire. But I've put people in places where they didn't succeed like I had, but as soon as I made a switch, they're completely dominating what they're doing. So just recognizing that's important. But the hiring part, a lot of our stuff comes from within. Yeah. So I've only made 2. There's 14 of us now. I've only made 2 hires that weren't from within.
Really?
Yeah.
And within, like, they were members of the gym, or what do you mean?
Members of the gym, or people that I know had a real passion for it, so I sent them away to get their certifications. Or
cool, man.
People that I know that are in it for the right reasons. Like, they started out as members, so obviously they value fitness because they're investing their time and money into bettering themselves.
Yeah. You build a relationship with them through that, so you know them.
Exactly. So I think a majority of our hires have been from within.
That's great, man. That's the way to do it. If you can build it that way, that's the way to build
Plus,
it.
Plus, they start at the grassroots. So they come in, and then you teach them what the vision is, what your goals are, and then from there they progress into our coaching situation, and then that what they were taught and what they had learned, they're now reciprocating that to newer members. So it's a cycle for them, but it's a positive cycle, which is nice. So we've seen a lot of growth from that.
That's very interesting. That's a great way to go about it. Who do you idolize? Who are people that you look up to that you put up there as, somebody to strive to be?
Oh man, there's so many. My dad, he's first. He's the man. My dad, my grandfather who started the business. My parents are awesome, but from a business standpoint, there's a couple from the sports and performance world. Travis Mash, he's located in North Carolina. He's one of the best Olympic weight coaches in the country. He's super smart, super passionate. Really works. He works a lot with kids, so he's developing a lot of kids there. So I look up to him a lot as somebody I would like to strive to be in the Olympic weightlifting side of things. But it's just there's just so many. It's hard to kind of put one. But honestly, my dad. I think that's my number one.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
The cornerstone.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Freddie, thank you so much.
You bet.
Great conversation. And anybody who's in the central Pennsylvania area, go to Dorman Sports Performance. Check out what you guys are doing.
That's right.
You walk into that gym. When I walked in for the first time, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, we have
this is the real deal.
Free class every Saturday at 9.
Every CrossFit.
CrossFit class, yeah.
Very cool. DSPgym.com.
Yep.
Dorman Sports Performance on Facebook. Thanks, man.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
This is Rob Z Radio.